Welcome to this unique initiative by All India Management Association to get people information, knowledge, and an interactive platform at your homes. The time right now is being compared with events which have not happened in this generation's life. It's being compared to the world wars. It's being compared to the Great Depression, also being compared to the plague. And in many ways, it's almost like nothing that's ever happened before. If you think about it, all the citizens in every town, village, and city, in every country across the globe, have been asked to bind themselves to one place. Those who are at home have been asked to stay at home. Those who are doing essential services have been asked to stay close to the place where they will provide the essential service. At the same time, we also have to realize that it's a virus like any other virus. It is a flu like any other flu. And by the way, the number of deaths since the 1st of January till now from this pandemic are actually much less than from the common flu, from diabetes, from heart disease, from road accidents, from smoking, from cancer, a whole host of others. But what makes it dangerous and scary is the pace at which it is spreading. And also because the incubation period of this is 14 days, many of us could possibly be spreading it without even knowing that we have it. So that's what makes this pandemic dangerous. And also because we actually do not have a real vaccine or any medication for this. There are three different, actually more than three, but broadly three different kinds of treatments which are now being tried for this. There are a whole host of them which are under experimentation and trial. We have 96 trials with 54 different formulations going on around the world at this moment. The Indian government, some say started late, but the reality is the number of cases we had, active cases, was lesser than many other countries. It's now acknowledged across the world that the action by the Indian government and the Indian system has been stricter than any other country on the planet. And the only defense that we have against this pandemic is to break the chain. And because we do not have treatment, this is the only way we can break the chain, which is by maintaining the distance that we've been asked to. So I would urge all of you to listen to this advice carefully. Even the advice on washing your hands again and again and in using alcohol-based sanitizer is actually a scientific advice, because the outer layer of this virus is actually a layer of fat which dissolves and dies in chemicals which are in soap and also in alcohol-based sanitizers, which is the reason we've been asked to use them repeatedly every day, many, many times. I'll stop on the virus itself because we all get an overload of information right now on this. What I'd like to talk about is that whenever there is any earth-shattering event, any cataclysmic event that takes place in the world, it leads to change. If you think about what happened in the previous big events like this, during the World War, it spurted innovation. Many manufacturing companies started making guns and tanks and aircrafts, which they'd never done before. Siemens and Volkswagen and companies that we know were making regular products for everyday use became defense manufacturers and suppliers. And post the war, innovation really kicked in. And then came the Cold War. So each time something of this nature has happened, it brings in change. Some of it is temporary, as it will be now, because we will spring back to many of our old habits. But some of the change which this will bring will for sure be permanent. So we are beginning to categorize, if you look at the impact on business, in three categories. Some are companies that will gain from this. So healthcare companies, telecommunication companies, video conferences companies, there are a whole host of them which are seeing a dramatic surge in their business. If you look, for example, at Zoom call, I presume this is a Zoom call we're at right now. Zoom call till 2 months ago had 10 million subscribers. Last week they had 220 million subscribers. They had never imagined they would get to this size. They were also, by the way, not prepared. So they made some mistakes. They had some security lapses. But that's what happens when you make dramatic change. There are some companies which have been badly affected by the current situation. Hotels, airlines, travel portals, and the like, the travel, tourism, all of the industries, the eateries, restaurants, movie theaters, places which have large gatherings like the opera and other sources of entertainment, sports gatherings, etc. Just the conferences that we've had cancelled in the last 1 month have cost the world over $2 billion, just those. So the impact of this is going to be twinfold. And I'll come to a third set of companies, by the way. I've addressed only 2 of them, one which are gaining and one which will temporarily lose. There are some which will lose permanently, where will be a permanent change of our habit or usage or consumption will take place. So we have to be aware and conscious of all of these things. As we are in the middle of this, we are locked in at homes. It is sensible and smart that we use this time not just to work from home, but also to ideate, to innovate, to think of research ideas, to think of how we could do things differently, how we could do them better. There are some things for sure. Now it is clear many companies are saying, why do I have these large box offices? Why do I have tens of thousands of people sitting in the same place? Let me allow dispersed working. Because what this last few weeks has shown me is the system actually works. So in our companies, for example, we have regular meetings taking place. We have review meetings. We also have board meetings taking place, as many other companies do. So each team meets with each other every morning, and they're using different platforms. Zoom call is a popular one, but there are also other platforms being used. Microsoft has one. There are a whole bunch of platforms that are available. So that technology has allowed us to cut back on some of our travel. There's a friend of mine who has offices and businesses in Europe and in US. He's saying, I must be mad. I was going every month for a review meeting to those places. I've just told them I'm going to come 1 in 6 or 8 months now, and I will do all the monthly reviews only on video. I'm not going to come and see you every time because I've seen you guys enough. We are familiar with each other. The concept of physically meeting each other is an important one, but it's only part of what we need to do. We need now to make this step change in how we conduct business, in how we deliver education, in how training is done. There is a whole host of services. If you just look at the delivery services right now, of course, at this moment, we are all locked in home. So we do need everything right down to our vegetables or medication at least, and things of the nature to come in home. But the reality is, for many people, the convenience this is demonstrated is phenomenal. So that's another business for sure, which is going to change permanently for the better. So there is need for us to speculate smartly on the changes that are likely to take place. I'm not dwelling too much on the disease itself because we have excessive information coming in, except a request to all of you is to stop watching TV all the time only for news on the COVID-19. Set yourself 1 or 2 times in a day to get, and there's enough information you will get. And also please stop these crazy messages which go around on WhatsApp and other medium because the bulk of them people are now saying is actually not correct. They're not true. They spread either panic or unnecessary hope. The reality is that this is a disease that we will beat, but we will only beat it in time once we've got over the hump. In India, it is expected we will get to the peak numbers anytime between the next 3 to 8 weeks. So all the preparation that we have been doing. So Sanjay, what you're saying is not a doomsday situation. It is a reality. If we hit the maximum numbers in the next 8 weeks, the impact of this will last 2 years on the economy. If we hit them earlier, the impact is likely to last a year and a half. Please note, it's not 2 months or 4 months or 6 months. The impact for sure will be beyond this year. There is now speculation about India's GDP growth, it's certainly not going to be the 8 or 7 or the 6% that we had got used to. It's not even going to be the 5% that we had last year. There is now speculation that if this continues for a while longer, we will have an actual contraction, as is expected in many of the developed countries. We are aware that countries across Europe, that countries in North America have already declared that there is a definite contraction in their economies and the size of business in this coming financial year. In India too, we need to be prepared for a tough situation, because as humanitarians, many of us chose to pay the wages and salaries. The government is also requesting businesses and companies, please don't fire people. But after 1 month, people have now started to raise a question that I have no revenue. How long can I keep all my costs at the same level? I have to bring some costs down. So there are some tough calls to be made. We already had millions of people right now across the country who are displaced. Many of them are living in shelters. Some are being supported by philanthropists, foundations, individuals, and companies, and being fed, some clothed. So we do need to make sure that we realize that there is a humanitarian crisis that has taken place as well. So it's 3 parts to this. One is the health and the preparation for the health crisis and addressing the COVID-19 situation, and learning from this to prepare for other crises in the future. Second is the pure humanitarian crisis of hunger and joblessness. And this, by the way, is going to grow because many companies will shrink, at least temporarily. Some will shrink permanently. Therefore, the number of jobs for a while will certainly shrink. And third, as I was saying earlier, is the sheer economics and the business end of it. So we have to figure out a way to balance these. There is a debate going on across India right now about lives or livelihood. I don't think we have a choice. We have to manage both. Lives are critical because every human life has a value, and livelihoods are important because that's the only way we are going to be able to feed our population. In the interim, we do expect that the support at the government of India and the state governments, the administrative machinery, has shown amazing leadership. And with support from business, civil society, foundations, overall, India seems to be doing a reasonably good job. We are, of course, woefully short on capacity. If the numbers of infected and the numbers of severely infected become anywhere close to what we have seen in countries like Italy or Spain or the US or some of the other countries. Hopefully, we will not be that badly afflicted because we came in early with the lockdowns. And while some people have complained with the Prime Minister's speech, but the reality is, and I'm talking about the speech about an extension of the lockdown, but the reality is that is the only sensible thing we can do right now. Keep ourselves safe, keep ourselves segregated, and at the same time prepare for a phased limping back to economic activity, because any part of the economy that we open, we have to open the entire value chain for it to work. So the suppliers, supply chain, manufacturing, or services, or the value add services, and also the distribution and sales of that product or service. All of this had to open at the same time. Only then that industry is going to function. We're also now saying, please operate only at 25% capacity for a while, which also means that all of these businesses will actually run at a loss, because there is no business that can actually be profitable at 25% capacity of operation. But at least we will get back the economic activity. Some revenue can start, even if it's a trickle. We do need to allow ourselves to limp back, and we must only limp back. We must not try and leap back, because we will open ourselves to a massive risk of a flood of cases striking India, as other countries have been. So, like many others, I am quite hopeful that this will spur us into the kind of movement we have demonstrated. Yesterday, I was on another call where I mentioned the 5 R's are what we are expecting from all of us. Resilience, reform, reimagination. So there are many things that we have demonstrated already. India has stood together, shoulder to shoulder, across the country, all sections of society are standing and supporting the initiatives, their own collectively, or supporting some from behind. I think this has been a tremendous demonstration of national unity and of international communities leaning on each other. I hope that this situation over the coming months will get better. And by the way, I do think it's many months before it gets fully better. But the economic activities will start off in the coming weeks, and we have to continue to be watchful and supportive of the way the government and the administrative machinery is guiding us. They are doing it very, very sensibly.